in Oslo has approved a draft treaty for a worldwide ban on anti-personnel landmines. The decision came after the United States withdrew last-minute demands to change the wording of the accord. America must now decide whether to be a party to the treaty. It will be formally signed in Canada in December. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent Ben Brown reports.
For anti-landmine campaigners, this was a victory they've long fought for and dreamt about. They embraced delegates in Oslo who have finally taken the momentous decision to ban anti-personnel mines. The draft treaty, approved by 100 nations, should be signed in December. But Russia, China and India still have to be persuaded to agree to it, and even more significantly, so do the United States. They wanted to water down the treaty with a series of exemptions and a 9-year delay in its implementation. It's not yet clear whether Washington will sign.
I think it would have been a much stronger treaty had they taken the steps so that the United States would have been able to join with others. But my government will announce its final position on this treaty in the next day or so.
Until the United States is actually part of the agreement, and indeed until the Russian states and also China are part of the agreement, really this agreement will only carry weight once they are actually part of it. China produces more landmines than any other country in the world.
Eradicating the curse of landmines was a cause championed by Diana, Princess of Wales. She saw for herself the human misery they cause in Angola and Bosnia. Landmines kill or maim some 26,000 people every year. The litter of war, they recognise no ceasefire, acknowledge no truce. Even if every nation on earth refused to make or lay mines from today, there would still be some 300 million of them worldwide, which will take lives for decades to come. Ben Brown, BBC News.
And I'm joined now by Mike Whitlam, Director General of the British Red Cross, which has been running its own campaign against landmines. Mike Whitlam, you must be very pleased about this.
Well, I think we're delighted. The strength of the agreement is, in fact, I think much stronger than some of us had hoped. And it hasn't been sidelined or railroaded by some of the exemptions that might have been included. It's a very strong and a very legally binding document.
To what extent do you think the speed with which it has now been agreed reflects the work of Diana, Princess of Wales?
There's absolutely no doubt that the publicity that the landmines campaign has received over the last 6 months or so has helped to add pressure worldwide. The Princess was a global figure. It was a global campaign that the Red Cross was running, and I've got no doubt that perhaps a meeting with Mrs. Clinton and the fact that ministers and prime ministers around the world heard what she had to say, saw the Diary of a Princess. It's been seen by, I think, over 120 million people. You can't fail to be moved by the images on that programme, and I'm sure it had some effect.
Are you concerned about the ambiguity now about America's position? Not yet clear, after all, whether they'll sign up because of their disappointment over the exemptions.
I think it's disappointing that the Americans are taking a little time to agree whether they'll sign or not. But the document itself, the agreement itself, is a very strong and legally binding document. And it's a great advance on what we were hoping for and what we've seen in the past. So I think this will add pressure to not just America, but maybe some other countries to join up. And hopefully when we get to Ottawa in December, many other countries will be on side. And if the Americans do sign it, it'll add even more strength to the whole agreement.
Mike Whitlam, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Northern Ireland's largest unionist party, the
Jewish settlement stays here in Ras Al Amoud, an overwhelmingly Arab area. The big security operation around the house continues. Palestinians who say they were evicted from property bought for the settlers are getting more frustrated and angry.
What I can do, they have the government, they have the guns, they have the machines, they have everything, the government with him. Myself, I can't do anything.
Yasser Arafat said there would be big trouble if Israel allows the settlers to stay.
And we hope that this has to be solved very quickly. Otherwise, there will be a very negative reaction.
The settlers filmed a triumphant visit by Irvin Moskowitz, the American Jewish millionaire who's financing the project. He made his fortune from bingo halls and hospitals. Right-wing activists brought the settlers food this morning. The government could, but doesn't want to use the courts to evacuate the settlement as a threat to public security. Instead, it suggested that a few Jewish religious students could stay if the families go, a compromise rejected by the settlers and by the Palestinians.
Go back to Brooklyn. Don't disturb the peace here. We want to live in peace here. Go back to where you came from. Go back to Brooklyn.
The settlement has put Prime Minister Netanyahu under a lot of pressure. The Americans, as well as the Palestinians, are saying that it must go, but parts of his own hard right, on whom he relies for power, have told him that if he tries to move the people out, they'll bring down his government. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News, at Ras Al Amoud in East Jerusalem.
The crew of 2 American military fighter jets are recovering after a mid-air collision off the coast of New Jersey. It was the 5th accident involving US military aircraft in 4 days. 2 of the crew ejected from their plane and parachuted into the water. They were winched to safety by helicopter. The pilot of a single-seater aircraft was able to return to shore safely. A woman who allegedly broke down the door of her local church because she was sick of listening to bell-ringing practice has appeared in court. Midge Mather denies causing criminal damage to the church at Compton Basset in Wiltshire.
These are the bells of St. Swithin's at Compton Basset. The court heard that relations between the church authorities and Mrs. Mather deteriorated because of regular practicing, so she decided to take matters into her own hands. Arriving at court today carrying a large pole she hoped to use as evidence to support her case, she denied causing criminal damage, saying the local vicar had given her permission to force entry into the 12th century church using a crowbar and a pickaxe head, and then cutting bell ropes with a hacksaw, causing more than £1,800 worth of damage. Opening the case for the prosecution, Guy Nell said it was a sad case for all parties,